Okay, so this is about painting and decorating and how much things cost to hire one in 2023. I'm also referring to an article that was written by one of these so-called sites where you can get your professional painter and decorator, get all your quotes from verified painters and decorators. A lot of nonsense, but anyway, I'm going to refer to them because some of the information in there is absolute crap. Just a nonsense. It gives you no help whatsoever. I'm really talking though about and focusing about prices around York and what painter and decorators will charge in general. And I also like any painter and decorators that work around York to let me know your prices, in comparison to what I'm going to talk about. Because there's a big variance in prices, and there's usually a good reason for that. I'll come on to that later. And looking at this article that was written by one of the, what should I mention them? Yeah, I probably will towards the end. But they're going about, if you've ever had to paint your entire house, you'll know how tiring and frustrating it can be. God, mundane crap there. But anyway, we'll skip all the nonsense that they go on about, because these companies really all are about, when they say you can get a quote for them, it's just about generating money and getting painter and decorators to pay for you as a lead. That's how they view you, a lead to get painted. So let's just get to it. This is what they're saying the prices should be in 2023 for painting and decorating. The cost for a typical one-bedroom flat, if there is such a thing. They're saying the estimated costs never go on estimated, but obviously they've got some of this because they haven't seen it. They're saying between 1,400 and 1,700, and time required 2 to 3 days. I'm going to go through them all. 2-bedroom flat or house, 1,750 to 2,300, 2 to 5 days to do it. A 3-bedroom house, 2,400 or 3,100 to 3,100, should I say, 5 to 7 days. A 4-bedroom house, 3,300 to 4,000, 7 to 10 days. 5-bedroom house, 4,200 to 6,100, and 10 to 15 days to do it. Right, okay, so that's what they're saying. There's a lot of issues I've got with this. The biggest issue I actually have is not so much on the pricing, although I would say they're probably on the low side, because what they're trying to do is entice you into actually go through them to get quotations. Let me know, York decorators, if you think these are on the low side. They certainly are from me if I was pricing, generally. But it's on the days, to do a 1-bedroom flat in 2 to 3 days. What are you doing in 2 to 3 days? How can you do a whole... All right, it's only a 1-bedroom flat, but it's going to have a living room, I'm presuming, and somewhere to go to the loo, I presume, a kitchen area, doing all this. Right, absolutely nonsense. And then going to the other end, a 5-bedroom house, 4,200 to 6,100. 5 bedrooms to decorate, 10 to 15 days. So you're really looking 3 weeks work. And I'm presuming they're taking the assumption that it's one decorator. Of course, if you've got 15, or I won't be silly, if you've got 5 decorators in there, of course it's going to be done in the time that they're saying. But one decorator is not going to do a 5-bedroom house in 10 to 15 days. Absolute nonsense. And those prices, you may as well pluck any. You may as well say 10,000 or 2,000. It doesn't matter. But what they're saying is as well that decorators charge a daily rate usually between £160 and £240 a day. I don't know any decorators that work on £160 a day now. Not a skilled tradesman. If somebody's working for that level, they're not a skilled tradesman. Because this is the other thing I would say to decorators, painter and decorators, do not sell yourself cheap. If somebody asks for me for a cheap job, I'll say go and have a look at one of the check places to go and find someone who are desperate for work, whose only purpose is to do a slap of paint over anything, over the top, make it look something like and charge you not a lot. Most professional decorators don't want to work that way. So anybody that does, I'd run a mile from. But if you want a decent job doing, then I would doubt whether you'd want to work with these type anyway. So, and now they're saying that if you're on a 1-bedroom flat featuring a bedroom, a lounge, diner, plus a kitchen and a bathroom, you can expect to pay anywhere between $1,400 to $1,700 for the job, excluding VAT. Okay, a lot of companies are VAT registered, but most painter and decorators in York will not be VAT registered if they're working for themselves, because say the average earnings are around 35,000, some maybe a bit more. So it's a bit of a nonsense when you look at these prices, because how do you actually decide how much something is? You have to go out and see a job to be able to give a price on. So really, to anybody that's looking for painter and decorators, they need to actually invite them down, get them to look at the property. I know I get people say, well, can you give me a ballpark? And it's, what do you say? Well, nonsense figures like these, 2,500 to 5,000. You go down and you say, oh, it's 6,000. Oh, you told me it was only going to be 2,500 too. So you can't win either way. I do, though, on one of my websites where we do kitchen cupboard painters, we give price guides on that, because you're doing a defined thing on kitchen cupboards, repainting them by hand. But when somebody says, well, it's just to do a living room, we all have a different sized living room. We might have, old wood chip wallpaper that's been on there for centuries. Well, maybe exaggerating a bit there, but for a long time anyway. And it's maybe had another 10 coats on top of it of other wallpaper. To strip that off takes a lot of time. You could spend, to be fair, to prepare a room properly with old wallpaper on can take longer than the actual painting by a long way. It really does. It takes a long time preparing if you're doing it properly. If you're a slap it on merchant, prices, silly low prices, then yeah, they'll just go over the top and you'll get a crap job and you'll get what you deserve. And then you'll probably moan about it, because I tend to find those that are just wanting cheap. Can you do it less? Can you do it less? They're the biggest moaners when you end up doing the job. So, don't come to me. Okay, if you want a good quality job, then come to me, yeah, because I'm really particular. And a lot of the top decorators, York has got some really good decorators, really take the time, really do things correctly. And why shouldn't they be paid what is a reasonable rate for a professional skill? Now, the other side of this, though, is I appreciate that at the moment, some financially is quite challenging. And that doesn't mean to say we don't want to live in a nice, clean, freshly decorated, tidy home. So what do you do to save money? There's a few things you can do to help with the cost. I've not a problem if somebody says to me, look, we're really we want things to look nice, but, we're wanting to try and reduce costs on things. So if I will say to them, you can do some preparation work. I'll always go over it and check it, but things such as removing wallpaper. Anybody can remove wallpaper. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's time consuming. Sometimes you go on that and get away. This is the other thing, wallpaper stripper, and you've got to be careful with these because you end up lifting the plaster off. So, that is something somebody can do, because, on this website they're saying that removal or stripping estimated cost per room £300 to £500 for 1 day per room. So this is why the pricing doesn't make sense what they're talking about on this website at all. But anyway, I'm not saying you're going to save £500 a room, but you will save some money on stripping wallpaper. Depends on what the condition is. Okay, so we're going to move on. So that's one way to save. I don't like it if somebody says, well, I'll get the paint, or I'll get the I'll do some sanding or preparing or filling, anything. I don't want to get into that, because they will not prepare the same standard that I prepare, and probably many of you professional decorators, the preparation is really the most important aspect of any decoration. So there's another thing that does really have a big effect on cost, and obviously that's the condition of the walls themselves in the first place. Now, I've been to places where there've been chain smokers, absolutely thick with nicotine. It's horrible. I hate the smell of it when you go in. I'm an ex-smoker, so I can moan about smoking. That's on your lungs as well. But when it's all over your walls, getting this, covering this. Sometimes I did a house over in Malton once, and I put a stain blocker on. It was absolutely acky. You try cleaning it off, you couldn't clean it off. So I ended up putting a stain blocker on, one of the Zinzar stain blockers. I used the oil-based one that stinks as well. I did 2 coats of that. And then we went on to, I don't know how many coats I did to actually cover it. Got there in the end. But this can add massively to cost. If you have damp patches in a room, and saying to your decorator, can you cover this up? They can, but the source of the damp has to be stopped in the first place. If it's been an old leak that's come through, fair enough, and it's now fixed, that's not a problem. You can actually seal this and stop it coming through. Unless it's been quite bad, sometimes it's actually better to have it re-skimmed, because you're never going to block out, even using, as say, the Zinzar blocker. I have one at the moment actually going on where there's the ceiling. I'm at a point where I'm thinking, look, just get this re-skimmed, because I don't believe that the stain blocker will cover it. It's really deeply stained and it's more than likely to come through. So that's another thing where costs can increase massively. Now, the other thing that does I was saying about pricing. Now, obviously, when somebody's just started out in business as a self-employed painter and decorator, they want to get work, and it's quite challenging sometimes when you're starting out. So, of course, they may price a bit less than somebody who's been well established. I mean, there's some in York that have been going for a long time. I mean, myself, I did my apprenticeship back in 1979, and I still do some bits of advertising. I don't really do a great deal. I have no website and things, but it's difficult when you're starting out. So they're going to be more competitive probably. I'm not saying they'll do a bad job, but they'll probably, if they come across something they've never seen before, will maybe scratch their head a bit of how to overcome it. Because I know anybody who's been doing it for the time I have, and some of these long established ones, there's probably no situation you haven't come across before, and sometimes it's there's not a book on these little ways to overcome problems when you're decorating. So they say now, and this is how they end this article, this particular company, and who would have guessed? Comparing quotes could save you up to 40%. And it's click to get quotes, and that's really what it's all about. These they drive me mad, these websites. That's all they're about. They're not about giving you information, because the information they've given you is absolute crap. Advantages. Is hiring a painter, decorator the best choice for my home? What a title. Advantages. Gets the job done far quicker than if you were doing it your own. Wow, rocket science. Disadvantages. Cost significantly more than doing it yourself. Really, does anybody read this bland crap? I don't know, but it's not going to tell you how much things are. So it's about price. It's me having a little rant again as usual about stuff, but realistically, pricing. Right. If a decorator from York, and I'd like to hear from decorators, as I said, they should be, most decorators will work, decent decorators, around 250 today, 200, 250 a day, some a little bit more. It all depends really. And this is the other thing. I never price based on days work are priced on the job. And I work, and the ones that work for me, all right, they maybe have a tea break. I never have a tea break. I'll have a coffee as I'm going, and a bacon sandwich if that's on offer, but not always. So I'll just work through. So it's what you do in the hours that you're there. I do a day, but I'll probably do, and I paint a lot quicker than somebody who's just started. So a day work, isn't it? I price the job as a whole. But I think if somebody can look and think, well, if somebody's going to be here for a week, you've got to be paying, I would say, around $12.50 to $1,500, including materials. That's for everything. Because I never said, in this other thing as well, they go on about, those quotes are excluding. They had a nonsense one where it says it doesn't include the cost of the skirting or the ceiling being painted. What the? Yeah, this is. I tell you, Google. There's some real nonsense on Google. There really is. But anyway, so that's my little. So it comes down to get a professional painter and decorator out to you from York. Get them to give you a price. Get a couple of guys out. Or girls, because there's actually some really good women that are decorating now. What I have found, and this is going the other way, I actually feel that a lot of women, when they're doing decorating jobs, do it better. They're more particular in the preparation work. That's just my take on it. I've seen a few, and I think, wow, they really do take care. I'm not saying that men don't, of course. I'm very particular, and I know a lot of guys do, but generally, and I don't know if is that sexist in reverse. I don't know. I don't care, actually, to be honest. But anyway, okay. Well, I hope you've got. I don't know if it's really helped you, this video, but it's my take on it. I've whittled on as usual, but I've got a really good one coming up that's going to explain all about, from start to finish. I've just done a kitchen recently, repainting the cupboards. They were looking very tired and quite knackered, to be honest. But the finish of this is stunning. Unfortunately, it's the same colour as it was before, so it's quite difficult. But you can see, and I'll go through all the stages, all the materials I use, the products, and what I actually do step by step. Now, this is something you could do yourself if you're a DIYer. And it's also taking business away from myself. If I say painter and decorators who are used to doing other work, if you concentrate and do some kitchens the proper way, not a slap over, it's not like just painting the front door. You've got to do and take a lot more time and use special things in there. So watch out for that video coming up. It's coming up soon. It's going to be quite a long video, and not as much waffle as I've done in this one. Okay, thanks for watching from me, David, at Painter and Decorator York. See you in the next video. Bye bye now.